So for those who don't know about Health Innovation North East North Cumbria, we are one of 15 across the whole of the UK. We work in that really great innovation space, but also in transformation. We work across our local system and we support not just transforming patient safety and making sure it's safe, but also how do we improve population health and how do we support local businesses and innovators to generate that economic growth. So that's our kind of core functions and objectives, but we do much more than that. Digital inclusion is a particular passion of mine, and we've embedded that even in our local processes, but how we support the rest of the system in doing that. And as a high NENC, we support a number of organisations across the region. We're very much closely aligned to our academic partners, all of the NHS trusts, but also local authorities and the third sector. We have a really good representation for the Digital Inclusion Forum from patches across that region. So we reach far and wide, all the way up to, you know, kind of the Berwick area over to Cumbria. So we have a really good cross-section. I've already mentioned our brilliant presenters today. You would have seen the social card already. So firstly, I'm going to hand over to the wonderful Alessandra and stop sharing my slides.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Rachel, for inviting us today. I am going to check my slides in terms of sharing. If you bear with me a moment. Here we are. Thank you so much for having us today. I work at Connected Voice, and I manage a project to improve digital inclusion in Gateshead. I will try my best to be brief because I have 4 of the wonderful organizations that are part of the UKSPF Digital Inclusion Project here, and I would like for them to have the spotlight and not me, because they've been doing absolutely amazing work in this past few months that they've received the UKSPF grant. I am not sure if you're all aware about Connected Voice. We have been supporting the voluntary sector and communities in the region since 1929. We are one of the local infrastructure organizations that cover Newcastle and Gateshead, and we want to improve the quality of life across the region and work towards a fairer future for all. And these are some of our mandates. And I think this is a really important occasion in which we can actually amplify the voices of the organizations that have been part of this project and have done so much work. So again, thank you so much, Rachel, for the invite on behalf of all of us. I've been part of Connected Voice Health Equity team since April 2023. And this post was created specifically by the Gateshead Digital Inclusion Steering Group, which is a cross-sector partnership between NHS partner, Gateshead Council, other VCSC organizations, research, and industry, in order to take forward some of more concrete strategic or practical actions in terms of digital inclusion in Gateshead. And this steering group that I now chair have been going on roughly 2 years before I got into post. We've done a little bit of an exercise in terms of priority setting at the beginning of my role. And one of the things we really found important was to share as much information and opportunities for a VCSC organization across Gateshead. And I've started a digital inclusion network in Gateshead for the past 1.5 years. And these are some of the sessions we've had from the Good Things Foundation to AbilityNet to the NHS Hub, etc. And my colleague Stella will tell you more about the future of this network because there's good things happening very soon. We've been sharing information and opportunities also through our newsletters, our magazine, Gateshead Council magazine as well, which has been a very, very interesting collaboration too. I've created a leaflet/poster with some dependable digital inclusion information for Gateshead to share far and wide. And we've also had an in-person networking event on digital inclusion and women's empowerment that went really, really well. And I'm really proud of the feedback that we've received. But what I would like to really draw attention to is that we are not able to improve digital inclusion by ourselves. We need collaboration. And it's strategically important to have collaborations across sector as well. And what we are focusing on are holistic and person-centered bespoke interventions that are culturally competent at a local, at a regional, and at a national level. I don't think we can't discount all type of micro or macro collaborations in order to improve digital inclusion. I'm really passionate about this particular matter. I'm going to give you some example of what has been happening in the past few months. For example, at local level, we've been collaborating with the Gateshead Council thanks to their corporate social responsibility contract with Virgin Media O2. There's 15 broadband connections available for VCC organizations, and we've been trying to connect organizations to Virgin Media to share this opportunity far and wide. We've connected partners with smaller VCC organizations for free and bespoke digital skill courses, are culturally competent as well. We've connected the Good Things Foundation to Gateshead Council. As you might already know, Gateshead is suffering from, like many other parts of the country, from digital poverty far and wide, and we've connected the Good Things Foundation with the Tackling Poverty team of the council to get the warm spaces involved in this as well. Another successful collaboration, I must say, has been happening with BT on the digital switchover, and we had an in-person drop-in with at the Gateshead Jewish Community Council for Gateshead Jewish communities, and a lot of people attended and provided brilliant feedback as well. And at a regional level, we chipped in as well in terms of the digital inclusion strategy for the region. And I am sure you'll hear much more about it because it's really, really exciting and really, really important. And we are at the final draft stage. We've collaborated with Thrive by Design on this as well. And I'm always pointing out their digital exclusion map of the region. It's a very, very interesting tool that can be used. And at the national level, we've been collaborating with the Digital Poverty Alliance and partners, and we've organized a focus group in Gateshead where and thanks to this focus group, we'll have more insight on how traditional television supports social resilience and social justice. And this will inform the research and the lobbying that the Digital Poverty Alliance and many other partners doing with the government in order to inform the plan to switch off or limit their digital terrestrial television in early 2030s. And as I said, with me today there are 4 organizations part of the Digital Inclusion Project. We've received this funding from Gateshead Council to involve smaller VCC organizations in Gateshead with the digital inclusion agenda, and they've all been creating bespoke projects with the hope to increase access to the organization and improve the perception of their organization in itself. The timeline of this UK SPF pot of funding was really, really tight. So I tried to reach out to organizations that support people who belong to known demographics of digital exclusion. And then I've provided informal support also for other organizations too in this period of time. And we will have an end of the project event on the 11th of March, and you're more than welcome to join, and I will share you the link for registration if you like to attend, and it will be in Gates at Central Library. And again, these are 21 of all the organizations that received the funding. They're not all the organizations that received support in the past year or so. But they're all doing incredible work with very, very little funding. And I'm really proud to be able to associate my name with these organizations, and they provide support to local communities in Gateshead in excellent ways. And you can see I can speak and I can sing the praise of all of them far and wide, as they really know their community they are supporting very well, and they're really engaged with the communities in such meaningful manners. As part of the UK SPF project, I've also organized a series of training on digital inclusion on a variety of topics, from accessibility to AI for VCC organizations, what it means to develop a website for a VCC organization as well. We will have an all-day digital learning day tomorrow. There will be a branding workshop, some more safety and digital safeguarding as well for VCC organizations very, very soon in March. But I would like to actually give the floor to the first organization that is going to speak. And it's the CHEV, and I'm going to share the presentation, or better, the brochure that Xavier has compiled. Are you able to see the new brochure?
Yes, we can see the brochure, Alessandra.
Brilliant. I'll try to enlarge it. So, Xavier, the floor is yours.
Hello, yeah, thank you. I'm just very aware I wasn't I was a little bit mixed up about the timing, and I'm going to be busy now for the next 5 minutes with clients, and I'm just wondering if you could switch around the presentation.
Yes, that's no problems. Yeah, do you want to move on to Irene?
I will stop sharing and I will reshare my presentation and give the floor to Irene.
And Xavier, if you could just, oh, that's great, just remute yourself. Brilliant. Thank you.
Here you are, Irene. Thank you so much.
Right, you're going to put the slides up for us, aren't you, Alessandra?
Can you see the slide?
No. That's it. Right. Right, so I'm Irene Graham, and I founded the Gateshead Dementia Carers Support Group. It's a peer-led group. Every member within our group is either looking after someone living with dementia or has looked after someone living with dementia. The first group was founded 3 years ago. I wanted to start a group before then, of course, a virus hit, so I was 2 years out. But we've been going for 3 years now, the first group, which is in Leam Lane, at the Methodist Church in Leam Lane. The second group I started last year, and that's in Bladen to cover the west, because there was very little in the west. Unfortunately, I lost my mum last January, so I had a bit extra time on my hands, so I founded another one in the west, and that's in Bladen, in Briarwood. It's an assessment unit. We're self-funded, which comes from tea money and donations from members and their families. I was very happy to get the award for the digital inclusion. And our group, we meet with the Dementia Network in Gateshead, which has been going for about 2 years now. And I met Julia Perry from Connected Voices, who put us in contact with Alessandra, and she's helped us all the way through, which is great. We encourage newly diagnosed caregivers with newly diagnosed cared for people or living in a nursing home. And we're great believers in encouraging bereaved caregivers to stay within the group or join the group, because they've been right through the system, and that's a great bit of knowledge that in some other associations or support groups is lost, because once you're no longer a caregiver, then financially, etc., for the people that are running them, they're dropped, and really they're missing out on a great bit of experience there. So next slide, please, Alessandra. These are a few pictures of what we've used the funding for. We've bought laptop, which I think is absolutely brilliant, because before I was retired, I used to teach the subject on dementia safety, etc. I was a health and safety officer, and it's absolutely fantastic. We also bought some tablets. Now, the tablets are to be used as a sort of lending library for members, caregivers of people living with dementia can't always get out the house to come to meetings. So we've also bought licenses and accessories so we can do Zoom meetings. So when they can't get out and they don't have the equipment, we can lend them a tablet, which we train them to use, and they can join with our Zoom meetings. We've also bought training equipment and licenses to carry out training for our members. A lot of caregivers, when they're newly diagnosed, their loved ones are newly diagnosed, don't know a lot about dementia, and it's really important that they get as much knowledge as they can. So that's what the training equipment was for, and printing accessories so I can get my name out there. We've also bought insurances to cover everything as well. Next slide, please, Alessandra. So far, what we've accomplished, and we've accomplished a lot in a year. We've done training sessions. We've done training sessions in what is dementia, which shows members the 5 most common dementias, although there's about 200. Within this training, it shows what symptoms are, what the dementias are, the names of them, and what they can expect, really. And also mixed dementias, which a lot of people don't really realise you can have more than one dementia at one time. And they found that very, very helpful. We've also done one-to-one appointments with members for access and patient access for doctor's appointments, for ordering medication, and having a look at self-referring services they can get on the patient access. We made sure that they knew which app to get, and they knew that they needed the signing in information from the doctors, which I must admit is rather long-winded when you first get it. But we managed to get them through that, and I found that really helpful. And also members, to teach them how to access Zoom meetings, because it's no use providing them if they don't know how to get on. And also how they can use the free Zoom for talking to friends and relatives, you know, which is really helpful when you're stuck in your house and you can't get out of it. Next slide, please. These are a couple of case studies. One of our members was finding it really difficult to get doctor's appointments since they've sort of gone digital. If you don't get in at 7:30 digitally, you phone up at 8 o'clock and there's no appointments left. So it's really important that our members know how to do this. So we had one lady, and I gave her one-to-one session on how to download the app and how to navigate it. And again, I went through the appointment system and the non-referral services and how to order a monthly medication. Very important stuff. And the second case study, Alessandra. And this was for a lady who wanted to join via the Zoom app. Her husband's dementia has deteriorated, but he's still at home. And she found it very difficult to get out and was feeling very isolated. So taught her how to, well, we downloaded the app and showed her how to navigate the system. As I say, she actually was able to talk to family and friends once she sorted this out. So that's as far as, oh no, I'd like to just add something. It's not on this slide, it's just some training. This is my happy group at our Christmas party. We have done a training session, which is dementia simulation, which were done on PowerPoint in a breakaway room, which were put in darkness. They had special glasses on, weights on the wrist and the ankle. So it's like vascular dementia. It gives them an idea of what it's like to have dementia. We've got some disco lights, which are digital, and I control them by a remote control. And this is just the confusion, some of the symptoms that people with dementia can have. So that was a very exciting day. We just done that last week. So I'd just like to say thank you for this this funding, because it's made so much difference to the group, not only for training and access, but also for admin, which I do myself. It's brilliant to have a good computer that I can get into and have everything I need to keep her running. It's fantastic. Thank you very much. That's me.
Well, that's so lovely to hear, Irene. I'm going to come on to the questions for all four of you at the end, but it's just really humbling to, you know, the difference that you can make. We've all been touched by dementia in some way through family members. We understand those challenges, but how are we tackling helping caregivers in that situation? So it's really lovely to hear your story. So thank you. And I know it's always nerve-wracking sharing on a you know, on this formal setting, but we really appreciate it, because actually our audience need to hear the difference that small projects can make, and that's absolutely brilliant. So Alessandra, I'm going to hand back over to you. I think we have got Zivia joining us now. Zivia, are you okay now for 5 minutes? Brilliant. Thank you.
Sorry about before. I just had clients coming in at that time, so I just had to take a small break. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. That's brilliant.
Yes. So first of all, I was very inspired by Irene's project, and it's amazing to hear what other people are getting on with when you're so busy and involved and you can't think about what else is going on out there. But that was very nice, and really nice to hear what other people are doing. So I set up the CHEV because I'm the mother of 2 adults who have special needs, and wanted something for them to do, to fulfill their potential, and to have something purposeful in their day, and something to look forward to, and also to raise their self-esteem and show them that they are capable of, being like the mainstream, having a little job, having some income. So to that end, we set up, it's called the CHEV, which just means a group. It's like a diminutive for the word group, and we do lots of different things. So we have like a social enterprise going on during the daytime, which we call our employment program. So if we just move up a little bit, please. Just move up to the next page, please.
One moment. It's getting a bit difficult to move the slides. I apologize.
That's okay. So we've made we've piloted a few different products, with the Play-Doh, which we offer to nursery settings. So our clients actually make it in our non-food kitchen, and nursery settings will order it, and they'll make it up to order and make it in different colours. And that's been very well received. And we also have made candles, which are now in local shops, and we've made dried fruit and meals in a cup. We can move down to the next one. And we also, as you can see in the top right corner, we've done quite a few stalls. We did some outside Tesco. We've done a stall at a local community event, selling our products. In the right hand corner, you can see we've done party favours, and we actually got an order from London for 1,200 party favours. So it was a very big project of 6 weeks to get it fulfilled. Go down. We have also placements in Oosburn Farm, the riding stables. Our clients go out to craft workshops, so that we can bulk up the timetable and give them more skills. Go down, please. A big project that we've got is our allotment, which we have had grants for, and we've put in we've invested a lot in it so that our clients can go there and do planting, harvesting, and we also want to bring in more people, more children from schools around about to have a little plot to be able to learn about horticulture, about growing, planting, harvesting. It's got so many health benefits, and they learn lots about science and climate. So that's another thing that we've been doing. And Alexandra has come in and helped us a huge amount by helping us with our digital setup. So we've got we also this talks about our leisure service, and if we carry on down, and I can show you the photos that we use to show you what we've done with the digital grant. Have you got the photos that I showed you?
Apologies, it's really getting slow, my machine. I apologize for this. It's really, really slow. Apologies.
Yes, so there you go. So so with the digital grants, we bought a large screen, and we had it installed, and we do lots and lots of different projects with that. So firstly, we engage with our clients, have lots of friends who've moved away, and we're very conscious of them having plenty of social opportunities to avoid them being, very lonely, and which could lead to depression. So we like to give them lots of social time and show that they're remembered by their friends. So we have a Zoom session once a week where we bring on different people who've moved away and they can interact with them. If you show the other pictures, sorry. Yeah, so we've also done an art course. So we've got an art course on a USB, and which we put onto the large screen, and then we've bought all the materials, and they follow the instructions on the screen. We've also done sorry, I've got some other pictures there. That's part of the art course, and we'll also do. This is our horticultural project, and that's our candle project. This is one of our stalls at a local community centre. And we've also done, what's really important as well is that we've done emotional health. So we've put onto the screen a course about emotional health, and we have our clients listening to the course and then doing the homework together with each other, making resources, which all teaches them about their emotions and about how to process their emotions. So we've had huge benefits from the screen. Besides that, we've bought computers, and we're teaching them digital skills. We've also used the grant to help set up the computers, set up the Zoom, and get all the connections going. So it's been a huge support. Alexandra's been a huge support in all aspects of the project. And so thank you very much indeed.
Sylvia, that was brilliant. Great to hear, from a personal story of your own experience and how you're transferring that over into, enriching other people's lives and doing different things. And I'm really interested in the breadth of projects that they're doing, from arts to making food and doing, different things, and then being able to sell that. And I think it's a really good model. So once we've had the other two presentations, I've probably got a couple of questions for you. So hopefully you're still able to stay around as well. But we understand if you're up and down a little bit. So Alexandra, I think we are over to the wonderful Jeff this time. Jeff? So you just need to unmute yourself, Jeff. That little mute button at the top of the mic.
How's that?
Yeah, we can hear you. That's great. And you've got your screen shared, which is fantastic.
Okay, I can't see anything on the screen at all, but never mind. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see your... Oh, hold on. I think it's disappeared.
I can see your presentation, Jeff. I don't know if you... Yeah.
Yeah.
You've all got it on your screen, have you?
Yeah, everybody's got it on their screen, so you're good to go, Jeff.
Thank you. Okay, my name's Jeff Dunkley. I am the chairman of Pelo Community Bowling Club. And as you can see from the pictures on the screen, we have we've done a couple of projects with Connected Voice. One of them was the NHS nurses coming down and doing NHS app training. But the biggest one of all was this particular one. But just to give you a little bit of background, we became a CIO in 2019. We got the premises just before COVID, which was probably not the best time. But we took the time to develop a business model to diversify and become a wider community space. And that allowed us to continue bowling as well. But it also enabled us to reach out to other organisations and communities. People had not been involved in bowling before, but also people who wanted to do other activities. Some of the things our diversified programme included was last year, with help from Connected Voice, we had what we called a Techie Tea Party. various members of the community could come in. Technicians were able to answer any questions about laptops, iPads, phones, whatever they wanted to know. We have for the past 2 years operated a warm space, and that extended into the summer months, which we continued because it was so popular. But once a month on a Friday, we would invite a larger group of people would come along who had, as you can see, disabilities, or they were very elderly, and we put on food, refreshments, and they could just sit and chat, or they could even have a go on the green, as you can see these gentlemen doing. This last year, for the first time, we were really pleased to provide a tournament for Pride Radio. We had 16 teams who had never played bowls before. It was absolute chaos. Our bowlers showed them what to do and stayed on the green to help them as they started. And it soon turned into something seriously competitive. And it was so much fun, they've asked us to do it again. So a diary date for you is the 24th of August, because that's when it's going to take place. The teams included people like the Metro Centre, EDF, Tesco's, as well as the Drag Queens, Pride, and others. So it was a real mix, and it was a fantastic day. We have done a number of projects with 2 local primary schools. It started, well, the first one really was we received funding from an art foundation in Newcastle and the National Lottery. And a blacksmith artist came into the 2 schools, a lovely guy from Crook. And between the schools and the artist, they designed a bench, which we are really proud of, and it's called our Friendship Bench. But it's not ours, it belongs to the community. And we hope or ask people to come in, have a sit, talk to a stranger, and it has been well used. We've also, for the past 3 years, been coaching children in the summer months. The Year 6 group come along and play bowls. We teach them. And this culminates with an inter-school competition, which we've called the North of England Inter-Junior School Bowling Championship Final. The reason for that is that we want other schools to hear, find out how they can do it, and then we could offer a tournament in the summer, which would include, be a lovely summer event for lots of kids, and more importantly, their families. As part of our warm space at Christmas for the last 2 years, and by popular demand, we put a little carol sing-along. Yeah, we did that. With a proper musician, a small choir, and we laid on food and whatever. So how do we engage with the community? Well, you can see from the picture, we also stuck filling brass band in the middle of our green, which was quite frightening, but a lot of fun. So we create a lot of activities to attract new people, because we want to be a presence in the community, and we want to develop what we're trying to do. And it also enables us to meet lots of local people. We believe that what we're doing is help create a certain amount of pride within the area, within Pilkey and Pelaw. And it helps connect between isolated and vulnerable people. The generational work that we do brings in children right through to grandkids. And a lot of what we do meets the health and well-being needs of local people. And also we're getting older, so we're looking at a way of providing future custodians of the space. Why digital inclusion? Well, we have developed this space as an outdoor classroom. We've done a lot of activities with the 2 local schools, and we saw an opportunity to develop our online profile. We recognized an opportunity to bring the children together with Pride Media, who are across the road, to create something entirely different and bespoke. And we wanted to embed this work into what we're doing with the schools, at the same time as supporting Pride Media. And we wanted to reach out to a new audience of all ages. The picture you can see was when we opened the bench. We had 60 children with Nerf guns literally shooting each other, and the adults and the police and the MP and the teachers. It was interesting. What have we done so far? Well, the project we're doing comes to an end on Wednesday. The final school will go to Pride to see the fruits of their videos. We'll pick a winner, and they will all be presented with certification and a little Oscar. We formed this partnership with Pride, St Albans and Bilkey Primary School, and the children visited Pride and were taken around their unbelievable facilities. They were taught how to take little films and how to edit the films, and they were educated about TikTok. Now, we're very aware that you can't use TikTok till you're about 14, but when we asked the kids who are 9 years old, they all put the hand up to say, yes, we've been on it, yes, we've seen it. So in a sense, by teaching them a correct way to do it is not a bad idea. And we've created co-design processes between all the participants. This has involved developing ideas around what to film and why, co-designing and ideas, creating video footage and editing. And this is a little film which I really hope you can see, which highlights some of the work. So what happens next? Well, we've actually created the TikTok account. There are 1 or 2 films on it, God help us. The children did use me as a target in some of their films, much to my shame. We will be uploading the remainder of the content for everybody to see, and it's worth a look because some of it is totally mad. How they got a dinosaur on our green, I really don't know. We're going to evaluate the work at the end of it and provide an evaluation document for Connected Voice. We are continuing to talk with Pride because we want to do more projects. And we have already spoken to the schools because they really want to use us as an outdoor classroom. Because we did this in the winter, and that was all due to the time it took for the schools to be able to organise for us to come along and do this. We've already agreed that Year 5 will return in the summer when we start the coaching, and they're going to start filming and editing little films covering the coaching of their Year 6 group, and probably the final between the 2 schools. So that's me. Thank you. And thank you, Connected Voice.
Jeff, that was great. I did meet you at the Gateshead Library event some months ago, and I was really empowered by your overall project. And I think there's some really good lessons to learn, but obviously a model that could work in other areas, because you've done a lot of great things. So I will come back possibly with 1 or 2 questions if we've got enough time. We're going to move swiftly on to our final presentation from the Gateshead region, which is Julie. Julie, just checking you're
Hi.
okay with
Yep.
doing
Hi,
that. You're there.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm here. Yep,
Brilliant.
that's perfect. Thank you so much for inviting me along this afternoon. My name is Julie Shepherd. I'm the director of Heartbroken to Healed Community Interest Company. What we do is we help grievers move beyond the pain of loss. It's an issue, grief and bereavement, loss of any kind. If we look at a definition of what grief is the end of or change in a familiar pattern of behaviour. It is so much more than death and the end of life. And we grieve all events in our lives. And one of the things that we do is to try and help people, to springboard them, to teach them some life skills so that life doesn't always have to feel painful and uncomfortable and unacceptable. Thank you very much for the funding. In the first instance, if I tell you sort of what we've done with that, thank you very much for the MacBook, which I am using today. Actually having access to our own technology has been really important because some of our clients are unable to get to us in person. So if we can sort of do our teaching and education online, all the better. It just broadens our scope to be able to access more people. As a consequence of that, one of the way that people find us was really important. So we've started over the last 4 years now to build a bit of a web presence, and some of the additional funding has also been used for looking at search engine optimization. We've managed to redevelop the website, adding enhancements and dipping our toe for the first time into actually making videos. It's great that Jeff there's talking about TikTok. Our social media expert is saying that that's where we need to go. But watch this space when you've seen sort of some of our first tries of our videos. Our social media sort of expert has very much said that spoken word makes the world so much more accessible to many. And that's where the nub, the hub, the real care and compassion of this project has actually taken us. So we began some conversations with some of our marginalized communities who actually were presenting themselves to us saying grief and loss is a real issue in amongst the people that we're caring for. What can we do to help them? And we know that society teaches us very few useful skills. So we got around the table with some of the organisations were City Compassion Project, TADAR, Teams in Dunstan Alive, Gateshead Council. We sat round to have a look at what was actually needed, who needed the support, and how we were going to access them. In Gateshead, we're speaking 48 different languages. So how can we possibly begin to help and support all of those people? Do we understand sort of how they grieve, what the cultural differences are? So we decided to try something sort of quite unique that I'm not aware has ever been sort of done before. So I went to my licensing body and said, okay, we want to look at trying to translate or interpret some of this international grief information. Can we do that? So we gathered support from sort of our professional bodies who said, yes, go do it and let's just see where it goes. And I think that that's been the foundation of this project. The people that have come on board have said, do you know what? Let's just see where this goes. Let's try. Let's just begin, because it's so much easier to steer a moving ship than it is to actually get going. So we reached out to the communities in Gateshead to try and find some interpreters, people who were going to be bold enough to work through their own grief and loss. So what we wanted to do was to give them a personal experience of how recovery from grief and loss can look. How does that feel? How do you process your own stuff? Because there's nothing more powerful than being able to share your own life story. That is so much more useful than just hearing something that's hypothetical. So we had a fabulous group of, I think we've got 4, actually a fifth behind the scenes. So we're looking at making videos in second languages to help to invite people into the fact that life maybe doesn't always have to be this way. We can do something practical, we can educate and learn some skills. So the project at the minute was one, to help the interpreters so that they felt able and comfortable to talk about grief and loss without being triggered of their own stuff. Hopefully there will be some shining stars come from that. And then to be able to translate the key concepts of what they had learned into other languages. So these will then be distributed around our many sort of multicultural sort of groups that we know or are connected with within the Gateshead area. So what I would like to do is actually share just a short video of one of the interpreters, because what we wanted to do was to actually say, tell us why you actually got involved. So let me let them speak for themselves, hopefully.
Not right to live life, pain. So please meet the interpreters while they're on this journey with us and hear about what they've learned so far. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hope. I'm originally from Egypt. I joined this project because I saw a call asking for a translator into Arabic, and I thought I would help. And then I was pleasantly surprised that I will attend the course to be able to shoot short videos. I've been losing my mother to Alzheimer's for the past 10 years, and nobody wants to talk about this. Nobody wants to engage in conversations about what's going on or how sad it is, or even talk about her. Throughout the workshop, it's been a very painful but enlightening experience. I got to say things out loud I would normally not say to anybody ever, because nobody really wants to talk about such sad stuff, and there is nothing to be done. I was able also to look back about other losses and how I dealt with it, and think about my coping mechanism and how I react to these things. It was such, it helped me let out lots of emotions and lots of thoughts, things that kept going on and on in my mind, but never really said it out loud. It also helped me with my kids when they're sad, to not go into automatic, just reassuring, showing the way stuff, just to accept that sadness is one of those feelings we get. Be grateful for this workshop and looking forward for the next sessions and how it's going to end.
Hi, I'm Seth.
Thank you. All of the interpreters wanted to get on screen, but we don't have time to share that, to share everyone's with you all. I know that the entire video is going to be available, and if you would like to see it, I think it's one of the things that that Rachel is going to be able to share. So, as you heard, sort of grief whirs around and around until we find a place for it to be able to land and settle. So I teach an educational toolkit that helps people move beyond the pain of loss. So what next? We need to instill hope that life doesn't always have to be this way, trapped in pain and sadness. And the videos that we're going to produce will invite all of our marginalized communities in to come alongside, work with us and find a safe place where they can begin, hopefully, their journey to recovery too. As an end point, This has prompted many conversations amongst other marginalised communities. This is a first step, and if we're successful, we will go on and make videos in other languages also. But we've connected with the deaf community, so in 2 weeks' time, we're starting a similar project with the deaf community. Those who are isolated, when we look at marginalised groups, the women with the Millen charity, that there are so many groups of marginalised people who hopefully we can look at how is this project applicable, transferable into the rest of our communities. So thank you so much for your help and for the inspiration and the funding and the finances to actually make a difference. Thank you.
Julie, that was excellent. I'm going to give a little physical clap to all of our presenters today, because I think for a lot of people, it's very daunting to be able to speak in this way. You have all done such a fantastic job. You've really got your messages across. I've got a question for each of you, if that's okay. We are running slightly behind, but I'm sure between Stella and Sarah, we will connect and catch up. So I'm going to go with Julie first. Now, you talked about, I really loved a couple of your bits, about the spoken word makes the world so much more accessible to many. I love that strapline. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. You mentioned about 48 different languages, but how many languages have you done so far, Julie?
So this is our first step into 5. So there's Farsi, Turkish, Arabic, Urdu, and Spanish.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Really good cross-section, and then you'll grow. I'm going to pull Stella in for a question before I move on to the other guys, because I can see your hands up.
Please forgive me that I meant to just clap and extend a hand for the wonderful work.
Don't worry.
I was getting very overexcited with all my icons and everything.
Don't worry, we do that all the time, so don't worry at all. So that's great. It's Julie, great to hear 5. I'm going to come to Jeff. Jeff, just to ask, so I think for you, I love the custodian model, because as you say, how do you build that community for the future? So that's a little bit of a challenge, I guess. I love the concept of TikTok, because I don't understand it. My partner buys off TikTok shop all of the time. We've currently got a cake decorating kit, because he's decided he's going to make a cake because he's watched it on TikTok. So there is a powerful thing to say about TikTok, which is really good. What do you think your community thinks about that, Jeff? I know the younger ones, but what about the older community?
Well, part of the deal with Pride is that they're actually teaching the ones of us who are dealing with it all about TikTok, because we had no idea either. But we're just getting it out there to different people, because it is a platform, and it's somewhere they can see so many different things. I've looked at a few myself, and there's so much out there that you can just find out. It's a huge platform, for a bit like Google with pictures, or with film, should I say. But this is the sort of start. I mean, we've realized, and the schools have realized, because the children apparently have been talking about this in the playground, so they all really want to get in on the act. So we'd love to do it again. We'd love to do it with the kids again, because it was, and also with Pride, because the relationship we're developing and have developed is something we want to continue. But through the children, it brings in the parents and the grandparents.
Mm-hmm. And you've got a great model. I'm really looking forward to seeing how it progresses over the coming years. And well done to all of your supporters and volunteers. Absolutely brilliant. Zivia, quick question for you, if I can pull you in. You've done some great things I loved about emotional health. What do the families think about the work that you've been doing?
We've had some amazing feedback. Yeah, we've created a community for people who would otherwise not have anything. The world's moving so fast, spinning around them, and they haven't got an anchor. But so we try to be that anchor, give them somewhere to go, something to do, people to socialize with, and a purpose in life.
Brilliant. And have you got any plans to expand?
Yes, we want to, at the moment, we're just a group of young women, but we want to bring in some young men who have similar needs.
Brilliant. Any support from us, and I'm sure everybody's been really delighted to hear some of the cross-section of the projects and the impacts it can make on our diverse community. And last but not least, we're leaving Irene to last. For me, you know, as I mentioned before, dementia touches us all in some ways. What was the feedback like from the carers about the work that you've been doing?
It's been really fantastic. Our latest one with the simulation, one member said that she didn't realise this gave her a sort of a view into what her husband was feeling, and she said she was just sitting there after the training, after they'd had tea, and she just said, now I realise what he's going through, and that can help her interact with him more, because it is very difficult as they go on. The training for what is dementia, a lot of people when they're first diagnosed just don't have a clue. They're diagnosed and that's it, with certain dementias like vascular, which we've got treatment for. So giving them helpful tips, because I've lived through it. I worked for 22 years with mental health concerns, so I know a lot about it as a support worker and then training staff. So it's absolutely fantastic being able to give these ladies at the minute, we've only got ladies, hoping to get some gentlemen shortly, but giving them just simple tips on how to make their lives easier, you know, and being able to have this training aid of a marvellous computer is wonderful.
Well, that's great. And thanks to Alessandra for inviting everybody along today, and for the amazing work you do in the background to make these things happen. 21 funded projects, juggling all of that must have been extremely hard. But we're really proud of all the work that you're doing. We're so glad you could come along and share it. And I'm sure our audience have really enjoyed the variety of that. Jeff, did you want to come in finally before we move on to Stella?
Yeah, just quickly, talking about dementia, we operate a warm space every Friday in the afternoon, 1 o'clock. You can see the details on our website. We do actually have a young man who's been coming for nearly 2 years who has infantile dementia. One of the other participants has a bit of Downs and God knows what else. But it's if you want to bring people along, please do, because it's really fun and friendly. Just to let you know anyway.
Well, that sounds like a very positive invite. I will definitely schedule that in my diary one Friday. So count me into that. So thank you, everybody. We are going to move on to Stella. Sorry that's slightly running over, but it's such the richness of everybody's stories that I can't not let everybody continue with what they're talking about. So Stella, do you want to join us and share your slides?
Hi, everybody. And again, apologies for the husky voice, but it might actually add something, hopefully. If I just share my screen. Let me see. Hopefully you can all see that.
We can, that's perfect.
And can you hear me okay?
And yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Okay, so hi everybody. What an act to follow. Just have to say how inspiring hearing about all those projects was. And hopefully, as I said, I'm very much in the foundation stages of this project, but hopefully we can have as much of a positive impact as Alexandra's work is having in the Gateshead community. So I'm Stella, and I recently joined Connected Voice in essentially the twin role to Alexandra's, but covering the Newcastle area. Now, since we're talking about digital inclusion, I always think it's useful to start off with a definition so that we've got a shared understanding of what we're talking about and how we can all work towards addressing this issue. So, National Digital Inclusion Charity Good Things Foundation succinctly explains digital inclusion as being able to access the internet and engage online safely and confidently when you need and want to. And I think the word want there is key, because I think often in digital inclusion, we forget the fact that having an aspect of choice and alternatives is also really important to make sure everybody can come along in the journey. So very much like Alexandra, beyond the slight mouthful of a job title, the aim of my role is to coordinate collaborative working between organisations in Newcastle from across sectors to promote and improve digital inclusion for the groups who are most at risk of being excluded. Some of the key sectors we hope to bring together are the NHS, Newcastle City Council, voluntary sector organisations, private sector, be that telecommunications companies, technology companies, as well as other businesses who provide related resources and services as well. Now, the research partners are going to be really key in this project, I feel, because for us to really direct our resources on our efforts in the best way to improve digital inclusion, we really need to have a very good understanding of which people need our support the most, where these people are located in Newcastle, and also what specific challenges that they face. A key principle which is going to underpin this project is making sure that we make use of the assets that are already in the community, be they associations, community groups, etc., so that we can co-create with communities, we can tailor and we can deliver support which is fit for communities as well. And as all of the wonderful work that's been shared already shows, evidence backs up the fact that digital inclusion initiatives are best provided through organisations in the community that people already know, who they interact with, and key, they also already trust. So if digital inclusion is about being able to access the internet and engage online when we need and want to, the flip side of that is digital exclusion, which is when a person, a household, a group, or a whole community experiences one or more barriers to accessing the internet and engaging online. Now, as you can imagine, there is a huge overlap between the groups which have been identified as being most at risk of digital exclusion and the groups which are most marginalised in society and at the greatest risk of experiencing health inequalities. So we have older people, especially those who are over 65. We have those who are experiencing socio-economic disadvantage, be that because of unemployment or being on a low income. There are disabled people, as well as those who are experiencing multiple and complex health conditions. There are socially excluded groups, such as those who are experiencing homelessness. We have those who might be seeking refuge or asylum in the city, as well as those who might have contact with the justice system. Another key group are those who are non-fluent in English, and this encompasses two main groups: those who maybe don't have English as their first language, but also those who are experiencing low levels of literacy. And we know that's quite a big issue in the region, with the average reading age being 9. And then we have those people who are living in areas where the broadband or mobile connection isn't really sufficient for them to be able to access the internet as and when they need to. Now, the projects which Alexandra has been able to fund and support that have had such great impact, many of them are addressing some of the key barriers that have been identified towards digital inclusion. So we have, firstly, the access to devices and enough data to get online. And key to this is affordability. We all know we're living in a cost of living crisis at the moment, and this can really impact people's ability to be able to get what they need to get online. Digital skills can also be a big barrier, lack of skills, and that includes the critical skills which enable people to feel confident to be able to manage any of the risks that come with being online. Support is very, very important. To me, it's the thing that brings us all together. The world of digital changes all the time. It's fast moving, and it's really crucial that everybody can have access to support, to learn new things. And also, if things go wrong, they've got somebody to reach out to. We're talking about things like the techie tea parties that I think it was Jeff mentioned there was techie tea parties that happened at the bowling centre. So things like that are really crucial. And last but not least, accessibility. Everybody should be able to say that the internet, yes, it's for me. And accessibility is a big barrier towards this, whether it's lack of inclusive design for things like apps and websites. So that might be the language in which a website is created in. There could also be a lack of assistive software, so things like Read Aloud or Recite Now, as well as a lack of assistive hardware that some people with impairments might need. Now, we're living in an increasingly digitized world, and personally, I think this provides us with lots of potential benefits, least of all the cost savings it can bring to our public sector. However, I'm really passionate that the benefits that are out there are available for everybody to access. And for those who maybe can't or choose not to go online, these communities should be safeguarded against the costs that come with going digital as well. Otherwise, what we face is socioeconomic gaps getting wider and health inequalities growing even more. Now, the work of Kat Dixon, who is a fellow of Good Things Foundation, we're hearing a lot about Good Things Foundation, but they do amazing work. They have something called a Digital Poverty Lab, and Kat produced this really, really powerful infographic that really drives home how important being able to access the internet and get online is to almost every area of life. I'm not sure if you can see that clearly, but we've got everything from medical to housing, to employment and training, to entertainment, to community, the ability to connect even more through digital technologies, all the way over to social activism as well. Now, because there's so many different things that contribute towards digital inclusion, and similarly, because digital exclusion can impact so many areas of our life, it's really key, as Alessandra mentioned earlier on, that we take a really holistic and whole system approach towards improving digital exclusion. Now, I have that poster on that slide because one of the most common responses that I had in engaging with organisations and people, introducing my role and what I understood to be the aim of my role was, wow, that's a lot. And I think that really reflects the general feeling that digital inclusion is really complex. Now, I'm an idealist, and I see that complexity is providing lots of potential opportunities for positive actions to have disproportionately positive impacts. And I think the case studies we've just heard totally exemplify that, how getting one big screen can have so many different impacts, from supporting emotional health to education to everything like that. I also recognise, however, that seeing something as being complex can become overwhelming, and it can actually stop people from doing anything to address the issue, which is something we can't really afford when it comes to digital inclusion. Now, I came across something called Three Horizons Thinking through an article that I read by Good Things Foundation. And what it is essentially, it's a framework tool for thinking about the future and planning for change in a way that really gets us to think innovatively. Now, what you have with this is you have Horizon 1, which is the current situation. You have Horizon 3, which is the kind of ideal that we'd all aim for. And I think in this case with digital inclusion, it's the fact that everybody is digitally included. That, as I said, everybody can say, yes, the internet is for me, and, or but. and that there's also a safety net for anybody who can't or chooses not to engage online. And then we have Horizon 2, which is about the stepping stone actions that we take towards this more fair and equitable future. This slide here, every year Good Things Foundation produces a bit of a snapshot of digital inclusion in terms of facts and figures. It's a really useful resource out there, and I think it's published every April. So this one might be a little bit out of time, given a few months, but some key things it kind of illustrates are the prevalence of the lack of digital skills, for example, with 8.5 million being lacking basic skills, with 2.4 million households not being able to afford their mobile phone contract, never mind household broadband. Also, and a really important statistic it points out is the fact that the work that we do, the work that the groups that we've talked to and heard from do is really, really important. We have here 64%, over half of the public believe that there's not enough support for people who can't get online, and 92% believing that most essential services across different areas of life require internet access. So there is a momentum, there is a collective will, hopefully, that we can build on and grow even more. So the project, as I mentioned before, very much in the foundation stages of the project at the moment. So very much Horizon 1 thinking for the last 6 months. A lot of my time has been devoted to going out, engaging with community groups, finding out what the needs are of the communities they serve, as well as getting an idea of what kind of digital inclusion programs and projects are already taking place in Newcastle, so that people can be signposted towards them, but also crucially so that we can see what is needed for specific groups, but also in terms of the geographic location in Newcastle. I've also been going out and identifying members of the steering group that we're going to be putting together, very much like that's already in Gateshead. So very much Horizon 2 thinking, putting these building blocks together. So building the awareness, building the will, involving people who have got experience of digital, it says inclusion there, but I meant exclusion, and also building that idea that it's a shared responsibility, that we can all need to work together to improve digital inclusion for everyone. So how can you get involved? I'm quite conscious there's a mixed audience in the forum today, but as I mentioned before, I think everybody has a gift that they can give towards improving digital inclusion. As I mentioned before, it is a complex issue, despite the really succinct definitions I shared before. Digital inclusion is a journey, and people can be included and excluded at different points in their lives. So it's really hard to get a full picture at any one time of the issue. The data that we have, whilst it's good, it tends to be very much on a snapshot basis, as I mentioned before. And when it comes to locally, there is a lack of data at the moment. So, as I mentioned, digital exclusion is impacted by a lot of different factors. And what's really important to know is that the barriers that I mentioned before can overlap. And some of the groups that I mentioned before who are most at risk of digital inclusion, they're not distinct. They don't exist in isolation. There is intersectionality, which means an older person might also face a barrier due to impairments they might have. They might also be facing socioeconomic challenges, etc., etc. And also key to that is that no one group has similar experiences. People are individuals. So because of that, it's really important that voices and experiences are shared, as well as best practice. It's really important that there's increased awareness of what's already out there in terms of services, and also needs. Now, in Newcastle, we have something called Information Now. It's a very, very good resource for the community where people can actually get some idea of where they might get support for digital skills, etc., etc. Now, Good Things Foundation also have their own National Digital Inclusion Network, and it's something that I've been encouraging organisations who serve communities to actually register to, because through that they can get access to SIM cards to support those they work with. They can also get access to what's known as a national data bank, which means that devices are available at certain points of the year, which can be donated, used to support the groups that already are taking place in communities. Generally, digital inclusion, we're still pushing for digital inclusion to be included in policies right from the start, in service design, and also for organisations in the private sector to really think about how they can support digital inclusion through their CSR and ESG responsibilities. Funding, that F word, the work that's been done can't or couldn't take place without funding and resources. There's brilliant work that's taken place and is already taken place, and would love for that to continue. So it's about making sure that initiatives are funded sustainably and it can continue. And lastly, as I said, digital inclusion is something that impacts on all our lives and impacts on those that we have relationships with. So it's about making the most of opportunities that we have to support individuals close to us, whether it's helping them get registered to the NHS app or whether it's helping them to navigate themselves around TikTok shop. It all goes towards improving digital inclusion. Lastly, Alessandra mentioned our Digital Inclusion Network. It's through the Digital Inclusion Network that Alessandra has been able to provide some fantastic training to help inspire, build the skills of organisations serving communities. And we're now extending this to Newcastle. It's very much a share and learn network, nothing that's going to be too onerous. What we aim to do is to hold one session each month on the first Tuesday of the month, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And the topics we're going to be covering are going to be those which people have said are of interest to them, and they're going to help them support those that they work with. So if you'd like to find out more, you can email me, or you can take a picture of the screen, and the QR code is available there as well. Okay, so thank you so much, Rachel, for giving me some time to talk about what I hope to do with the project. And thank you so much, everybody else who's spoken, for continuing to inspire us and give us lots of ideas.
Well, thank you, Stella. That was excellent. We are running over drastically.
I'm so sorry.
So we don't have time for any questions, I'm afraid, Stella. We need to move straight on to Sarah to find out some brilliant outputs from the PhD study. So if you can, please stay around. We were due to have a slightly longer session anyway, you would have seen from the Eventbrite link. So hope as many people can stop for the next section for Sarah. So Sarah, if you'd like to take the screen, that would be absolutely brilliant. Thank you.
Hey, can everyone see this?
Just need to speak up a little bit, Sarah. It's a little quiet again.
Okay, cool. Can everyone hear us now? Is that a bit better?
A little bit.
Okay, cool. I'll just keep that in mind. I'll just speak a bit louder. So I'm Sarah Wilson. I'm a research assistant and PhD student at Newcastle University. And my whole PhD project is looking at how we can improve digital health equity for those who are most at risk of digital exclusion. So to start off with, we've been looking at how digital technology has been used more within the healthcare space to begin with. And over recent years, it's shot up through the roof. So we have remote monitoring for diabetic patients, so like the glucose things like in people's arms, that can then be synced to a smartphone app to help people with monitoring. We'll have online health information at our fingertips through things like Dr. Google and just searching other health information. We've seen an increase in online health consultations through COVID, and we're also seeing an increase in the use of Google Translate to help facilitate conversations between those who are English as a second language. Even though it's not the best thing in the world to use, but if you don't have a translator there, it could provide like an extra benefit to help our communication there. So it's like a backbone, like plan B. And we also have a load of healthcare apps as well. So this includes the NHS app. So this helps people book online appointments as well as order repeat prescriptions. So there's been an absolute wealth of digital technologies being used within healthcare, and this has just dramatically increased. And it's likely to keep on increasing. There was an independent report of the NHS that got published back end of last year, and it actually recommends the NHS uses more technology to increase productivity within its service. And there was only a slight mention of digital exclusion, and that was in regards to mental health services for homeless populations. But the only thing is, it's not only homeless people who experience digital health exclusion. So I wanted to set out and sort of see what we can actually do to mitigate the chance of more people becoming digitally excluded as healthcare systems become more digitalised. So I focused on the northeast, and I focused on the northeast not just because it's got a nice pretty quayside, not because it's got a nice football club, and the nightlife's pretty good as well, but it's actually because it's got really high rates of health inequities. So people are less likely to live as long compared to other regions in the UK, and also people are more likely to die. Like the shorter lives they have, the more likely to be ill within those shorter lives. We've also got a higher prevalence of people who are not engaging within digital technologies. So this is a high percentage of those who are offline as well compared to the rest of England. And within that group as well, who aren't engaging within digital technologies, 94% of them are over 60, and that's of residents within North Tyneside. So not only have we got a combination of high rates of health inequities, these health inequities can then be exacerbated by digital exclusion, because it prevents people from accessing healthcare services as digital technology is becoming more ingrained within healthcare. So to actually hear the voices of those people who are most at risk of digital exclusion and try and identify exactly what it is that would help them become more included, I really wanted to get hold of people who aren't involved in research that much, who are often forgotten about in research as well. So the common ways of recruiting people within research are like sort of advertising on social media and online newsletters and things like that. I couldn't really use that sort of technique because these are people who couldn't have access, who don't have access even, can't use or don't feel like using technology. And we had to respect that and think, okay, how can we actually reach these people? So I used a community engagement approach using 5 steps. So I first had to identify relevant groups that different underserved groups might be engaging with. I then contacted these relevant groups to sort of build a trusting relationship and a rapport with these groups to fully understand how I can adapt my recruitment approach to meet their needs. And then I went out and delivered a few recruitment sessions. So I physically went in person to different community groups, presented the research, and also learned a bit more about the group so I could fully understand their needs. And then I asked interested individuals to fill out a demographic questionnaire. So this also contained questions about their everyday access and use of technology. So I could then not only monitor diversity within the group that I was wanting to speak with, but I could also identify those who are most at risk of digital exclusion based on their everyday access and use of technology. And then I also organised the data collection, so this included focus groups if they were more comfortable talking within a group setting, and also offered interviews, like one-on-one interviews, if that was more comfortable for some individuals, and we left that slowly down to the participants of what they wanted to do, and were scheduled it around their diary. If there was any accessibility needs, such as translators, I was able to book them in advance and have that sort of translator there for that day. So everything was there, and we really sort of understood the needs of the individual around organising the data collection, so they felt more comfy in discussing their experiences and what they think that could be done to improve inclusivity within healthcare. So this kind of 5-stage approach worked really well for me, and I ended up recruiting from 5 big community organisations across the northeast. So I've put this little time bridge picture here just to orientate. We're a bit of confusing maths that are going on here, but I did get quite a big range from over in Benham. Then I got some up in Killingsworth, some from North Tyneside, and some from South Shields. And then I also got a few from people just discussing it with their family members and friends. And sort of at the end of the interview, I'd also ask them if there was anyone else that would like to take part, and they would pass on their contact details if they were happy enough for them to be shared. So it was quite a successful approach to reach underserved groups within the North East. And I ended up interviewing and having focus groups and stuff with 29 participants. And these participants represented at least 2 of the CLEARS domains. The CLEARS domains is a framework I made at the very beginning of my PhD to try and identify those who are most at risk of digital exclusion. And just to summarise this framework, it composes of 6 domains. So we have cultural factors such as ethnicity, language and religion. We have limit conditions such as visual and hearing impairments. We have low educational attainment, those over the age of 65. We have those who are living in rural, deprived or homeless individuals as well. And we also have those on a low social income. And then the black line that sort of cuts across all these different domains represents that intersectionality aspect, because as we previously mentioned, people in society don't just appear to be as part of one of these groups, they're more likely to be a part of 2 or more of these groups, but that's often like omitted in research, and not many people acknowledge that extra additional layer to society. So I wanted to encompass that in my work, and I was able to get it pretty well. So the numbers that have come off these domains here represent the frequency of the domain represented in my participant group. So we had 22 people who were from the cultural domain, so represented either different ethnicities, the first language was not English, and they sort of had different religious beliefs. And then the sort of least represented group within the participant group was my limit conditions group. So it was 10 people who had visual or hearing impairment. So it's quite a diverse group that I got hold of. And then with the transcripts that were generated from those interviews and focus groups, applied a reflective thematic analysis. And this just means that when I was going through all these transcripts, I was familiarising myself with the data to actually understand what was being said in these interviews and focus groups. I then generated initial codes. These just basically means like reoccurring concepts that were coming up within these transcripts. I then generated themes, which is basically just the big groups of what like containing those reoccurring concepts, that I just grouped them in different things. Those groups were then refined and reviewed by the bigger research team that I'm a part of to make sure they actually reflected the data, and then I written them all up to make sure like the flow was all good and make sure there's no overlap between the different groups and all that kind of stuff. And the reflective part becomes a part of it because there are all the 6 different stages. I was reflecting on any field notes that I took to make sure that there was additional context there for any of the key quotes that I was pulling out. And I was also aware of any of my biases that might have picked up along the way. So then that mitigated any chance of my views affecting the data when really it should be the underserved groups' voices coming across. And that reflective analysis that I was applying to that sort of helped mitigate and identify anything that I was thinking that wasn't actually there. It was me preconceiving the idea through my research or through the data collection phase, and I was able to remove that from the data and rethink, okay, what's the voices of underserved groups that are actually saying here. So through this whole process of analysis, I ended up getting 3 key themes. So the first one is around the barriers to accessing healthcare via digital means, because a lot of people faced basically a digital first healthcare. So they would be wanting to book appointments, they were wanting to confirm appointments, but this could only be done either via a phone call or via like clicking on a link. But then some people don't have access to the internet at home, so that link that was given to them via text message to verify an upcoming appointment or to complete pre-assessment things before consultation, they couldn't then do that because there was no way for them to access that link with no internet. And there was no contact number for an alternative approach to then do that. So they end up either missing the appointment because they thought it was not confirmed, so they didn't bother going along, and different links like that. But the sort of things that people thought to overcome these barriers regarding access to healthcare was to support the use of an alternative measure in there. So not only giving them a digital route, but also giving a non-digital route option there. So if you are giving people a text message with a link, give them a number they can call, or direct them to an in-person GP centre that can ask questions with, and also support their access to devices and connectivity. So the system is wanting people to use this digital service, give them the tools to be able to do it. So give them the devices, give them free SIM cards, that kind of thing. And then there was stuff around using technology for healthcare purposes itself. So a lot of people showed a lot of digital anxiety around using technology, not only for healthcare purposes, but for technology generally. And they also experienced a lot of technology that was supposed to be simple to use, but actually required a high level of digital literacy skills to not only download the app, but also to register for the app. So like the NHS app and some other healthcare apps, they need multi-authentication, which can be very confusing for people switching between different screens on their phone. Some of them need photographic ID, and some people the people I was speaking to didn't have the funds to buy a photographic ID, or they didn't actually have it because they were asylum seekers. So that just completely put them off registering for the NHS app. And there were some other problems around there as well. So some people who relied on social support, so their partners, to help them use the NHS app. This opened the opportunity for controlling behaviours. So the partner wouldn't even teach them how to use the app, they would just always do it themselves to keep that control. And then some ideas that were put forward to overcome these kind of barriers around using technology. It was to actually co-design the technology with underserved groups. So then those complicated registration systems don't get put in place, because when you're co-designing, there's someone there putting the hand up saying, this is too confusing for me, is there an alternative way we can put this in place? And also to improve educational digital services in local areas, then those who would like to increase their digital confidence, to have somewhere to go to learn from a professional person. And the last key theme is around perceived clinical usefulness of technology. So some people who had a positive experience of using technology within healthcare thought technology did have its place within healthcare. So like this individual here was saying that she was in an in-person consultation with a healthcare professional, and she was there because she was having some issues with a hearing that was to do with, I think it was a cognitive brain issue, or like a brain tumour, it's one of the two. And basically the healthcare professional started typing questions and increased the font of the questions on a computer, so that communication was facilitated by that computer being there, and she thought that was absolutely fantastic. But then other people thought that the use of technology within healthcare has its limits. So a video call with a consultation is only good if you're discussing things like your drugs or your tablets that are being given to you and the side effects you're having. But it's not so good if you need a physical examination, which is where people are really concerned that if you're removing that side of things, people aren't going to have the care that they need. So there's a lot of controversy around that. So then to sum it all up, we put a summary together and sent it to an artist at more than minutes to produce this nice visualization. But to actually get to this stage of this visualization, there was actually a draft that was produced, and this draft was circulated around some of the participants who took part in the research and asked for their thoughts about, is it clear enough? Is there any elements that were missing here? Does it actually reflect your views about what we should be doing to improve inclusivity? And their feedback went back to the artist to then produce this final image. And this image just goes through different elements of ways that digital health services should be tailored to support the inclusion of those different underserved groups. So just to pick a few things out, so we have the age group at the bottom. So they were really saying that the login process needs to be simple, and because they kept on forgetting their passwords, but then sometimes when they're putting the password in on the screen, it wasn't letting them see exactly what they typed in. So that just bred frustration because they didn't know where the typing error was. So we're saying things like biometrics could be a thing that could be used going forward, but as I've been researching into that has a few controversies in itself. So that could probably more be a future problem when some errors around bias have been sorted. We have things around the services and policies, so putting in place that some SIM cards could be given out, the regulation of technology should be put in place, so the price of a basic smartphone doesn't shoot through the roof. And we should also have like educational services that are advertised or maybe delivered at places of worship, so then people feel a bit more comfy going towards those places that they're already comfy going to on a regular basis. And we've also published this work in the Lancet. It's just an abstract at the moment from a conference proceeding, but I am at the middle of writing this up as a publication as well, so I'll be more than happy to share that once it's all written up and sent out as well. And thank you all for listening. I think that was very quick, but I knew we were going out of time, so apologies for that.
Well, Sarah, we've been this is, I think, your third or potentially fourth time. We've always been involved in this project, and it's lovely to see the brilliant results that you've got at the end of that. Shirley's probably picked me at the post with one of the questions. In particular, how are you going to feed it back to the NHS, and how do they use that, how the design services and that graphic in that way? So what would your answer to that be?
So we've done a bit of work with different stakeholders and getting their voices and stuff involved. So the next stage, so once we've got that bit of work written up and all that sorted, we're going to compile it together and make some overall key recommendations. So I didn't want to share that to begin with, and then change it dramatically once we realise, it's not actually feasible, some of the parts. So once we've got those key recommendations from the whole bit of work that we've been doing, we will be going to NHS sort of bit like forums like this and trying to share the work to different groups that attend NHS clinical groups.
And what kind of timescales do you think for that, Sarah?
So the write up my PhD is done now. So I'm sitting on some recommendations that I've summarised all those bits of work, and it's currently sitting with my supervisors, and then we'll be submitting the thesis in April. So it'll be between now and April that those recommendations get finalised, and then I'll be able to put in line some dissemination plans to then disseminate to the NHS.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to that being launched, and we can certainly, if you haven't got the right connections in NHS England or the ICB, then please reach out to myself and I can connect you with the right people, because I think that's going to be a really great piece of work going forward. The ICB are about to launch their digital inclusion strategy, so I'd like to think that some of the findings are weaved in, in terms of how are we going to help support our communities moving forward. So that's all another good link. So Without further ado, I'd like to thank you for joining us today and for all of our wonderful presenters today. So Alessandra was joined by Julie, by Irene, by Xavier and by Jeff, who gave an absolutely brilliant cross-section of some of those funded projects. We've heard from the excellent Stella. Sorry we didn't get much in the terms of the questions, but really setting the scene about, you know, what it means to her, but what it means for Newcastle, and how joining together with Alessandra, doing a joint forum, which makes sense because often it can be similar people. And we're really excited to see what the developments are. And if you've got any ideas or you want to connect with Stella, then please do. I've seen some comments in the chat already, Stella, so I think you'll get some good responses from that. And finally, to the brilliant future doctor, Sarah Wilson, and her great PhD studies. We know how hard it is to go through that immense academic research to get where you are. And we know we're really pleased that you've been involved in our forum and will continue to be involved in the future. And if there's anything that falls out of that you need us to support in the future, then please, again, just reach out. And our forum is nothing without all of the people who come and attend. So thank you, guys, for attending. I'm sure you'll agree with me. We've had a brilliant session today, lots of learning and opportunities. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the week. It is only Monday afternoon after all, and we look forward to seeing you at the next forum, which is in April, and we will share the information. You can register online already. The link is available. In the meantime, we'll be sending out all of the wonderful presentations. You'll get those in your inbox in the next week or so, and once we've just cut down the video to make sure that it's not got us talking at the beginning, etc. on, so expect that to hit your inboxes. So without further ado, I'll let you move off for the rest of your afternoon. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Bye.
much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.